Hello there. My name is Angie Harper, and I am out here in Queen Creek, Arizona, and I am super excited to be your host for this incredible lineup that we have tonight. And I just wanted to thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're going to talk nutrition, and we're also going to talk about recruiting for athletes. And either you're watching live right now with us on Zoom, or perhaps you're watching a recording of this. We just want to thank you for taking time. I know everybody is extremely busy these days, so thanks for joining us. And we hope that you walk away from this call with maybe something you didn't know before and some valuable information. We're going to talk about how to best support your athlete, no matter their age, their ability, or their sport. But I want to lead here with full transparency. Well, myself and my fellow guests tonight are all a part of the same publicly traded activation company called LifeVantage. This is not an informational call about products, but you may hear them mention some products. And I just want to encourage you to please reach out to whoever invited you to this call, and they can get you more information about how you can best support your athlete. We also want to be sure to say that the information shared tonight is all from personal experience. You are encouraged to be your child's advocate and not to take this information as gospel, right? Different states, different schools might have slightly different rules and processes, and it's up to you to find out that information. And the same goes for nutrition. Your child might have food allergies or health issues or maybe some physical limitations. So the advice might not be the same for everybody. So with that out of the way, let's get to our first guest. This guy is somebody close to my heart. He's actually out in our garage right now here in Arizona. Don't worry, he does have air conditioning, so he's not melting. But this is my husband, Garrett Harper. Garrett is a graduate of Gonzaga University, where he majored in exercise science. He worked as a strength and conditioning coach for high school and college athletes. He sold fitness equipment. He was a personal trainer. He owned a powerlifting gym. He was actually an accomplished powerlifter and strongman competitor. And he has been training athletes for over 25 years. He has dedicated his life to helping teens specifically learn how to safely lift to enhance their athletic endeavors. He helps them learn, this is a question we get all the time, how and what to eat and what products they should take. And I'm going to ask him some questions. We're going to do a little bit Q&A style, but if you have any specific questions, do me a favor, drop them in the chat, and we will be sure to get those answered for you. In fact, if you're able to drop in the chat, let us know where you're watching from too. I always like to see that. So, hi, Garrett.
Hey, how you doing?
Long time no see.
I know.
So I'm just going to ask you some questions. I've just got a few, and feel free to kind of, put in any information that you feel is pertinent to this call and to these guests that are listening right now. But these are all questions that we get quite often. And so number one, I want to ask you, what age should my child start lifting weights?
So it's a complex question, but I would say as a general rule, your athlete needs to be at least 12 years old. Now, there's been a lot of research done to debunk a lot of the myths around weightlifting and youth athletes. There are countries that excel in Olympic weightlifting, not the US. It's not one of our best sports, but there's a lot of companies in former Eastern Bloc, the former Soviet Union. They start their athletes at 3 and 4 years old. So just to give you some idea of how young kids can start strength training. Personally, 12 to 13 would be a pretty optimal time.
Okay. Next question. What should my kid be eating to gain weight? And specifically, how much protein should my child be eating in a day?
Well, they should be eating food. If they're not eating food, we have a bigger issue to discuss. But when it comes down to the specifics, if you want to break down what everybody likes to talk about, the macros, right? Protein, carbohydrates, and fats, those are your macronutrients. A healthy, growing teenager, doesn't matter, male or female, should try to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be trying to get 200 grams of protein in on a daily basis. The fats should be kept in the 80 to 100 gram range, no more than that. and the rest should be made up of complex carbohydrates and fruit. So think rice, think potatoes. I'm actually okay with pasta. Fruit of all kinds is fantastic, but those are kind of some of the basic foundational goals you should be trying to hit.
Okay, do you recommend, I know for our boys, they tend to eat the same thing every day, you know, and keep it kind of consistent. Is that something that you recommend to other athletes?
I mean, consistency is the key in anything. I like to simplify a diet before over complicating it. If anybody wants some really good information, Stan Efferding, theverticaldiet.com is a fantastic resource. He calls it the vertical diet because instead of spread out all over the place horizontally, it's vertical. It's very simple to follow. It's a diet that's based high in proteins, high in carbohydrates, moderate fats. It's something that's very easy for kids to follow. Something our boys love to eat that we make all the time here. One of Stan's recipes is monster mash. You use white rice. You can make it with bone broth or with water, some type of lean meat, usually like a lean ground bison or lean ground beef. You can use chicken, you can use salmon as well. You mash all those together and you can take that stuff anywhere. Our boys take it in a big thermos when they go to school. It's easy to take to a sporting event. You can eat it multiple times through the day. It's very easy to eat. You don't really get tired of it. I've been eating it a lot, pretty much for the past couple of years. And it's a great source of nutrients for kids. And it gets them in the habit of eating consistently throughout the day. And one of the biggest problems with a lot of kids is they'll come to me saying, hey, I can't gain weight. I can't gain weight, nothing I do. And I'll have them go through the day. What'd you eat? Let's start with breakfast. Oh, I don't eat breakfast. Okay, what'd you have at lunch? I had a slice of pizza from school. Okay, what'd you eat before you worked out? Nothing. What'd you eat after you worked out? Oh, I went to McDonald's. I had 2 Big Macs. I had a quarter pounder with cheese, 2 fries, a 9-piece McNuggets, and a milkshake. And then I went to bed. I got all that protein and calories in. No, you didn't. That's an absolutely horrible, atrocious way to eat. Number one, McDonald's is absolutely disgusting. Just avoid it at all costs if possible. But you need to be consuming your proteins and your carbohydrates consistently throughout the day, not in one giant meal at the end of the day. And that's the only thing that you eat. If you're that 200-pound athlete, and I'm just using 200 pounds because it's a nice round number, but you're trying to get in 200 grams of protein a day, you're going to need to eat 4 meals with 50 grams of protein at each meal, spread out approximately 3 hours apart. That's the ideal way to do it. You need to be consistent with your eating, just like you're consistent with your training.
Okay, that leads me to my next question. So if you're saying 50 grams of protein per meal, I can just drink a protein shake and I'm good, right? For lunch or for dinner?
No. So when we talk about protein shakes or anything within that arena, we're talking about supplements, right? The very word supplement means to supplement something else. It's not a primary form of nutrition. It is a supplement to your regular diet. So I don't have any kids start with protein shakes or anything like that until they learn how to eat, because it's not going to do them any good. If you're not eating 4 meals a day, if you're not eating breakfast, you're barely eating lunch, you're only eating 1 big dinner, but you're having 3 protein shakes, it's going to be a disaster. You're going to have gastric distress, which is not going to be fun for anybody. You're not going to gain any weight because in a protein shake, even a 50-gram protein shake, okay, there's only 200 calories in that. There's simply not enough calories in a protein shake to help you put on quality mass. So no, don't even bother with protein shakes. Don't bother with creatine. Don't bother with any supplements until you learn how to eat. And by eating, I'm talking 4 whole food meals a day, 50 grams of protein at each meal, along with a complex carbohydrate, some fruits, and a little bit of veggies. That's where you have to start. If you can't do that, none of the other stuff is worth a dime.
Okay. What about, I know I see a lot of people paying for like their, 6, 7, 8-year-olds to do speed and agility training. Do you think that's necessary for young kids? And what age do you suggest speed and agility training be started?
Speed and agility training has its place, but it's for very advanced athletes. Speed and agility training will do nothing for a 7-year-old. If you're fast when you're 7, it's just because you're genetically fast. Everybody knows the fastest kids in school and elementary school. They're just genetically fast. There's no way you're going to take a kid who's not fast at 7 or 8 years old and make him fast by going to agility training. The same thing applies even later on in middle school and high school. You have to get strong first. You have to be able to exert more force than what you currently are capable of in order to get more faster and more agile. If you spend a lot of time getting strong, if you feel that you've got that down, you've trained hard for 6, 8 years, and you're trying to maybe maximize a 40 time for, for your coaches in football, you're trying to enhance your vertical leap. If you have all the other pieces in place, yes, there can be some benefits to working with an explosive, speed and agility coach. But 99% of athletes at the high school level are simply not going to benefit from that because they're just not strong enough. And those that are, the top 1%, they can certainly benefit from it. Better technique when sprinting, better technique when jumping, that can absolutely help. But for the vast majority of people, it's not worth the time. You're better off spending more time in the weight room, getting stronger, working on your explosive lifts there, more time eating quality food.
Okay, I do want to ask about back to the protein powder. Where do you get protein powder for the boys and for you online? Let's share that with people. And what kind of protein powder? Like what kind of protein?
Yes. So, and I know I'm a little bit hesitant about this because it's not going to do you any good unless you're eating. But let's say that you've got your eating down. You're eating your 4 full, whole food meals a day. You decide that you need to supplement with a little bit more protein. You're engaged in some very intense activity, in season training, plus weight training, plus conditioning. You feel you need some extra protein for recovery. I get it. You can start adding protein into the diet at that point. My favorite source, I think the best one you can go to is a company called TrueNutrition.com. I am not affiliated with it in any way. I don't make a single dime off of it. It's just a fantastic company, been around for a long time. They do third-party testing of all of their ingredients. They are very open about everything that they have, why they have it. You can go in and make a custom protein blend of any type of protein that you want with any type of flavor that you want. It's very, very simple. And the costs are really good. I mean, compared to what things are at these days. A good place to start is with a whey protein. I recommend a whey protein isolate. There's different types of whey protein. You don't need to get into the super ultra hydrolyzed, all this other stuff. Whey protein isolate is fantastic on its own. It's already partially broken down, so it's very easy to digest, gets into the bloodstream very quickly. You can also do things like whole milk protein, which is simply whey and casein protein mixed together, which is another great source. And some people really like egg white protein. I kind of like to switch them around because I get tired of doing the same ones all the time. But egg white's another really good one as well.
And it's cool because they have so many flavors, probably 50 different flavors you can choose from. You can choose to get a small bag just to try it out. So really, really good company, highly recommended. TrueNutrition.com. You can also get creatine there too. So let's keep talking about supplements for a second. I know that you've always said most supplements are a scam and that the supplement industry preys on teenagers, which I agree. I just heard the other day that ashwagandha is like all the rage on TikTok right now, along with creatine. But can you talk about what supplements you deem necessary or beneficial for athletes?
Yeah, so there's 3 that I deem 100% necessary. One is consistency. If you take 4 hours of consistency a week and apply it to the weight room, you're going to see results. Okay. The second one is intensity. And I don't mean going into the gym acting like, Macho Man Randy Savage and bouncing off the walls or anything, but having focused intent when you're in your weight training session, the same way you do if you practice for your sport. Bring the intensity, have a goal, the goal being to get bigger and stronger. And then the third one is determination. So there's a lot of kids out there and they're looking, hey, I got to have the magic program. I got to have the magic supplements, the magic coach. I got to do this. I saw this guy on Instagram, this guy on TikTok. They're all telling me these things. Throw that all out the window. Be determined in what you do. If you are determined to get bigger and stronger, if you make it a top 3 priority in your life, you will get bigger and stronger. But you have to have the determination behind it to do that. Those are the 3 most important supplements you can take. Now, if you actually want to talk about nutritional supplements, we talked about protein. If you are eating your 4 whole food meals a day, and I cannot stress that enough, you can get a protein powder. That's fine. Second one is creatine. Creatine is the most studied supplement in the world. There are probably 100,000 peer-reviewed published studies on creatine supplementation. It is totally safe. It is totally effective. It's also not a miracle. Don't think you're going to take creatine and all of a sudden your squat's going to go up 400 pounds. It's not how it works. But if you add it to your regimen of being consistent in the weight room, in your training and in your eating, yes, it can help. Creatine occurs naturally in meat. If you eat a big steak, you're going to eat a couple grams of creatine, just so you know. Very, very safe, very, very effective for teenagers. Absolutely. The third one, and I have to look at this real quick, is electrolytes. So regardless of where you are in the country, we're obviously in Arizona, which has, been like 115 every day for the past 4 weeks. Our kids sweat a lot when they're at practice. Electrolyte supplementation is critical, not only for your performance during your athletic activity, but also for recovery afterwards. It affects literally how hard your heart's going to pump. It affects what's called the rate of perceived exertion. If you're depleted of electrolytes, just doing basic things that you usually do are going to feel harder. And if you're not replenishing electrolytes after a tremendous amount of sweat loss, you're going to have a much harder time recovering after your workouts, whether it's an athletic workout or whether it's a weight training workout. And it's going to affect literally your entire quality of life. So when you're looking for electrolyte supplement, look for something that's high in sodium and potassium, but it also contains magnesium and calcium. Nick took a supplement 3 times a day when he was at the football camp last week. He takes it before and after every single football practice, and we'll probably look at even increasing the dose that he's taking this year. So incredibly important stuff. 2 other things that I would recommend, and again, these are all supplements. If you're not eating right, none of this is worth a dime. But 2 other things are fish oil, fantastic for cognitive recovery, for concussion recovery, for kids that are in high contact sports or combat sports. So think football, think soccer. Actually, cheerleading, believe it or not, is a huge high concussion sport. Keep that in mind. MMA activities and things of that nature. Fish oil supplementation can help recover from concussions faster. It's also fantastic for lubrication of joints, helps kind of get rid of some of the stiffness. It's a little bit more important for guys Ron's age. That's a joke, Ron, where I think we're the same age, but anyway. So I would definitely look into that as well. And then pre-workout drinks are kind of all the rage with teenagers these days. They all want to know what's the best pre-workout to take. Pre-workout workouts are just loaded up with caffeine and a whole bunch of other stimulants. They're a disaster. If you need a pre-workout to train, you're doing something wrong in your life. But if you do need something to help you focus a little bit more, if you didn't get quite enough sleep the night before, if you just want something that, hey, gives you a little bit of a kick, taking something like Axio is fantastic. 80 to 100 milligrams of caffeine in it from green tea, B vitamins, things of that nature. It's a fantastic way to just give you a little bit of a boost before you go into the gym. You're not going to have trouble sleeping at night. You're not going to bounce off the walls and act like an animal, but it's actually going to help you with that focus during your workouts.
Okay, last question, then we're going to get on to our next guest. In your opinion, and I know we did a live about this a few months ago, but what is, in your opinion, the most crucial factor for athletic success for any child?
Sleep, 100% sleep. You can do all the training in the world. You can even eat as with the best nutritionists in the world. If you're not sleeping, you're not going to recover. The stuff you do on the athletic field and in the weight room is the stimulus for growth. The stuff that you eat helps you to build new tissue, right? Helps to reinforce tissue, but none of that happens unless you're sleeping, because that entire process happens while you are sleeping. So as a teenager, 8 to 10 hours a night, every night, like clockwork, in bed at the same time, up at the same time. I know weekends that might vary a little bit, but they need to be getting a minimum of 8 and preferably closer to 9 or 10 hours of sleep every night if they want to maximize their performance. 100% the most important thing you can do as an athlete.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Garrett. Appreciate your wisdom and your insights.
Thank you.
And I'll be sure to link in the recording all the products that he talked about. So let's get on to our next speakers, this beautiful couple. I actually met, over a decade ago when our oldest son, Ryan, and their youngest son, Devin, played baseball together, and we immediately hit it off. Ron was actually a big reason why Ryan decided to play tackle football in 8th grade. He was his first coach. Ron and his beautiful wife, Mila, have been married for 30 years. Wow, 30 years. They met at Fresno State University 32 years ago, and they've gone on to breed bulldogs. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Ron is still coaching football at the high school level. He's also head softball coach at a high school in Northern California. They have 3 children, all amazing athletes, all played D1 sports in college. And their son, Ronnie, actually now plays for the Rams. They'll tell you more about their kids and their story. They're also new grandparents to 3 of the most beautiful baby boys. One is on the call right now, and so excited for them. Ron and Mila, welcome to the call. And Mila, you're going to share your family story for everybody, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. So this is in reference to the recruiting process. So if anybody has specific questions about recruiting, be sure to drop that in the chat, and hopefully we'll cover that. So hi, Ron and Mila.
Hello. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Garrett, for all of that great information. I'm going to have to check out that True Nutrition protein. And yes, Garrett, we love you, even though you are not the right bulldog. You are a bulldog, but we'll let that one slide because we love you so much.
I appreciate that.
So I am Mila Rivers. For those that don't know me, like Angie said, I'm a mama of 3. My Ron played in the NFL, and I breed athletes. I mean, it is what it is. Our daughter Malia is 28. She played softball for first the University of Georgia, and then went on to continue her career at Fresno State. So just like Garrett, she was a bulldog, not quite the right bulldog, and then figured it out and came over to Fresno State. So we love her so much for that. And then Ronnie went to Freedom High School and continued his career at Fresno State, playing football on a full ride scholarship, as Malia played softball on a scholarship. And then now our baby, Devin, is at Fresno and starting his first year over there. So what did we do? Our belief was to take them wherever they needed to go, support them as much as they could, make sure they were getting the grades. Grades were super, super important for us. It opened so many more doors than just the mediocre grades. There's nothing wrong with B's and C's, but A's and B's open up so many more doors, and you'll never understand it until you see it happen. When there's a school that comes in that's interested, and it's a school like Yale or a school like Stanford, and they're interested in your child, then there's other schools on board going, hey, wait, what do they see that we don't see? And it brings on so many other colleges. It's just that many more doors that open up. So first and foremost, our kids were student athletes. They were students first, and hitting the books was a big deal. And I think they didn't really understand it. You know, they just thought that we were being tough on them. We were the tough parents. But as they continued on their career, they understood that. And as they went into college, they were really good with their GPAs as well. Making sure they ate. It was big for us. It worked for us that no matter what time they were at sports, we all sat down together at night and had a meal for dinner. It didn't matter if it was 9:30 at night or, well, it was never 5 o'clock. It was usually 9 or 9:30 because everyone's sports ran late. That's what worked for us. We could figure out how their day went, how their sports went. And I saw what they were eating. I knew what they were putting in their body. They took lunch to school every day. They ate breakfast every morning. So many of their friends did say, oh, we don't eat breakfast. If you're at my house and you're spending the night, you're eating breakfast at my house, because it's the most important, to me, the most important meal of the day. It fuels and it starts your day. What else? What else can I tell you?
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, let's get to the questions.
Yep.
And then so a question that I know I had myself as a mom, and I know I asked you this a long time ago when Ryan was a freshman and you fill out all the paperwork, and I clicked that box for the NCSA, and then I learned how freaking aggressive they are. And so I learned when I signed up our younger son not to click that box because of your advice that you and Ron gave us. So what advice can you give? Do people need to pay money for an NCSA profile?
No, everything I'll tell you is my opinion. How about that? I would tell you no. There's so many avenues that you can do that works, and it doesn't cost you anything. There are success stories and everything, right? Some of the kids that are on there, they were going to get a scholarship anyway, right? They were just pretty good athletes, and their friends said sign up, and they signed up, and they used them as a marketing tool. But there's a lot of kids who are not that way. There's so many ways to get in touch nowadays compared to our days, me and Garrett, to coaches, between social media, between still the old school emails, even coaches now have their cell phone numbers on there. It's their work number, but it's on there. So there's a lot of ways to get the results without having to pay for it.
Right. And we have Coach Alex from Liberty High School Wrestling on the call, and he put in the chat, he agrees, no to the NCSA. So we just saved some people a lot of money and a lot of hounding and messages.
And those platforms are, for instance, the biggest ones are Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, so let's get to that. That's actually one of my questions. What do they need to do on social media, and how proactive should they be? And should it be the kids, or should it be the parents, or what?
Okay, so if they're in high school, it should be the kids, right? There's a lot of not coaches, but recruiting assistants who check for that. Is it the kid talking? Is it the parent talking?
And they can tell.
They can tell. They've been doing it a long time. They can tell. So they a lot of times they will shy away from the kid because they feel like the kid is not. They can't find out if the kid really wants to go there or not, or if it's the mom that wants to go there. The funny thing about it is today's world between Twitter or Instagram or even the Xbox or PS, right? They all play games. There's a media box on that game where a lot of the coaches actually talk to kids on the game, right? That's a lot of the ways of getting around some of the rules.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
If there's a coach that plays the same game, then all of a sudden, oh, that's what's the name from this school, right? Then they have conversations on the game. So there's a lot of ways to get around things for coaches, and some of them do them, some of them don't. You know, but the Instagram and Twitter, that's pretty much a good way to get a hold of them. For the older guys, like the older coaches, will check the Twitter, right? The younger ones will check Instagram. So they have a team that all they do is follow and check social media.
And
So,
what type of things are the kids posting? They're posting like when they go to camps, they're posting like film.
this is what I always tell everybody. When you post something, remember it's pretty much an interview for them, right? They're taking what you post or what you think as a good film and going, really don't like that kid. He really don't do this. So there's things that people need to know what to post and what not to post, right? For instance, say a kid catches a ball and he turns around and he runs for 3 or 4 yards, right? And they put it on their highlight or they post it, right? That's something that every kid in the nation should do. If you plan on going to college, that's what they should do. Doesn't matter if you're going to D1, D2, D3, NIA, they all tell you the same thing, right? Now, if that kid caught the ball, right, a one-handed grab, right, or caught the ball, made a guy miss and scored, right, then it shows them being explosive, shows them having the awareness to make people miss, and every coach is looking for someone to change the game, right, to give them a leg up on somebody else. And what kids don't realize is that there are thousands and thousands of kids who play football across America. So you have to be picky on the things you post.
And be
Okay.
careful about the things you post as well.
Right,
Not only
right. Or other
watching-
sports too, right? Because we're talking about every sport here. So I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what can an athlete expect from their coach, right? A coach has a team of kids to look out for. So when it comes to the recruiting process, what can an athlete expect their coach to do?
The high school coach,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you the high school version first. Every high school, a lot of the high school, I can't say every, but a lot of the high school coaches, they all say the same thing. I'm not here to get your kid a D1 scholarship. I'm here to teach your kid football and help them become a better man. Right? That's their answer. Now, I can honestly tell you that we didn't go to a couple of schools because of that. When I grew up, I had a coach who went up and beyond for me to help me, right, see where I wanted to go, right? So if you can find a coach who's willing to promote you or promote the athletes, right, that's huge. It's huge. There's so many coaches that say they do, but at the end of the day, a lot of them is worried about wins and losses. What record do I have? What did we do last year? But how many of the coaches go, hey, you know what? I have more than one player, right? Some coaches go, hey, you know what? They'll call and like, hey, who you got? Well, I got this kid.
So are you saying they almost have to advocate for themselves?
They do. You have to advocate for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yep.
You do.
Okay. I
You
get
do.
that.
You do.
What about sending your kid to, and I want to talk about baseball here too, travel baseball, like showcases, football players go to camps. How do you know which camp, which showcase is actually a legitimate use of your time and your money and will be valuable for your kid to maybe be seen by scouts? Because I know a lot of them out there are just a money grab.
Yeah, so that's the hard part, right? Because everyone tells you who's coming, right? Everyone tells you that this coach is coming, this school is coming, that school is coming, right? I found out before that some of the camps will hire people to wear a certain jersey or wear a certain sweatshirt to say this is on it with a hat and a clipboard, and it makes them look like they have a ton of people there.
Whoa.
So it's a catch-22, and sometimes you will notice by the amount of teams or the quality of teams that show up. Sometimes that's a good way to figure it out. When you go to a tournament and all of a sudden you see this team, like, okay, they're pretty badass. Where did they come from, right? And you see more than one team like that. That's usually a pretty good sign, right? That's a pretty good tournament. It's when you go to some of these tournaments, you're like, okay, it's not very good, So it's a catch-22 on that. It's more of a trial and error on that department there. But I know for softball, they've gotten smart, right? There's a couple camps that people go to, like the Alistair camp, but a lot of schools now have gotten smart, so they have their own camps. So what it does is it shows the schools that this kid really wants to go here. If you're willing to spend money from California to go to a school out in, say, Idaho, right? The kid really wants to be there. So sometimes it's you finding out where your athlete wants to go and then trying to go to that stuff there.
Okay, let's talk. I know, everybody's D1, D1, D1. Let's talk D2 schools, D3, junior college, the opportunities out there for kids to play. In junior college, they give scholarships too. So can you speak to, do you have any experience with any of maybe your softball girls or any of your football boys going to a D2 or a JC?
You know what? That's the biggest thing I tell all the kids is that you need to have 5 schools that you really want to go to, and then maybe 5 schools that are in the middle, and then maybe 5 schools that are at the bottom half, right? And sometimes the bottom halves are the NIAs, the D2s, the D3s, stuff like that. With the rule changing a little bit, they're giving more money to everybody now. Junior colleges are now paying for kids to go there now. So it's the game has changed a little
What do you
bit.
mean? They're paying kids to go there?
Yeah, it's more of like they're giving them a scholarship. Like some of them will pay for room and board, or some of them would pay for books and tuition. So there's different avenues now as far as junior college, right? I know that in California, you go to junior college, it's free, right? You pay for it yourself, and then you show your classes at the end, and you get a refund, right? But I know that some of my softball girls who left and went to junior college, they went to school and the school paid for it, right? Because it was out of state. It was out of state junior college,
okay.
and paid for it.
Okay, but if it's free, will they pay for room and board then?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the room and board is usually not much. But I know that they pay. I know for a fact they pay for your books in your school
Okay.
out of state.
Okay. Yeah, I know Aaron Rodgers actually went to Butte Junior College before he went to Berkeley, right? I mean, there's no.
And they'll find ways to supplement if it's like a D2 or an NAIA. They'll help supplement with academics and academic scholarship. And that's why academics is really big. The better your grades, the more money you get. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher because you have to apply for academic scholarships every year. But if you keep your grades up and you're, doing the things that you're supposed to do on and off the field, there's more of a chance you'll get that scholarship every year and be able to pay for,
It's
pay
a
for
certain,
school.
it's a certain grade point they have to keep up.
Okay.
So there's other avenues.
Okay, last question. And I was talking to a mom this morning who's her daughter played softball, both of her boys played baseball, and she regrets, starting too young, right? Going to, the showcases and playing in the off season and letting, especially her boys, pitch during fall ball. And I mean, I'm sure the same thing could be said for basketball, the wear and tear on their knees, and in football. What do you recommend as far as off-season care to ensure that your child can continue to play through high school and to protect them when they're young? Because that's something that, even Garrett and I look back and wish we had done things differently with our boys, when it came especially to baseball. So what do you recommend to parents out there?
Play multiple sports.
Mm-hmm.
When you play multiple sports, it takes away that part of it.
The burnout.
Right. And they have to realize that the parent, it's not the kid, the parent has to realize that maybe they're on a great team right now. And then the coach goes, well, if you leave, you're not going to come back. You're not going to get a chance to come back. Well, guess what? If he was really good, when that kid's ready to come back, guess who's calling? That same coach.
Right.
By the kids playing multiple sports, it helps them develop in different areas. We have so many kids that play football, play baseball, who wrestles, right? They develop in totally different areas. So that way, when they come back to that sport, they're energized to play that sport. It's not to where they just get burned out, right? A lot of kids lose interest in stuff because all they did was that, right?
Yeah.
My youngest kid is 5'6", and he told me he was going to the NBA. I was like, come on, man, you're 5'6". Not happening.
Although for Malia, she played softball year round and she loved it. So there are those kids that's all they want to do.
Yeah, softball's different though. It's a different motion for your arm, right? Those girls can pitch.
And she wasn't a pitcher. Yeah, she was a catcher. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of NBA, let's segue into our next guest here. Thank you guys. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Mila. So much valuable information. So I mentioned their beautiful daughter, Malia, who, I knew she was a badass softball player, but I Googled her and I'm like, holy crap, she's a badass softball player. Like, this girl's got award after award after award. And she happened to meet this dude who is, how tall is he? 7 something, 7, he'll tell us. But this guy, check this out, guys. So Greg Smith, nicest guy. He went to Fresno State, also a Bulldog. They have a son-in-law Bulldog. He went to Fresno State from 2009 to 2011. He played for the Houston Rockets, the Chicago Bulls, the Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been overseas. He's been to freaking every country you can imagine playing basketball. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's been through the high school to college to, you know, the pros and playing overseas. Now I know he coaches and he loves helping kids learn the game of basketball. So Greg Smith, Malia feeding their beautiful baby Julie in there. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
We're good. Good. We just wanted to end with some like real life athletes that have just been through it, and that's you guys. So spread some wisdom our way if you can.
I think the biggest thing that I can say is like your grades are super important. Like my mom had said before, the higher your GPA, the more opportunities there are for you, I would definitely say. And I don't think you have to take the SATs anymore, which is nice, but I would recommend to kids that are in high school to start taking college classes at like the junior colleges instead of taking the AP classes. Because when you take the AP classes, you have to pass the test. And if you don't pass it, then you don't get the credits for class. But if you take it automatically at the junior college level, you'll get those credits and you come in ahead.
Oh,
Which
that's
is
great. I never even knew that. That's great advice.
It's super nice. I came in, I mean, I took AP classes that wasn't available to us, but I came in ahead. So I could graduate early and start working on my master's program if I had chose that route. That was an option for me.
Wow.
So-
Okay, that's really good advice. Cool. And Greg, what about you? Any advice for young kids coming up in the sports world? Some do's, some don'ts?
Oh man, my best advice is you gotta love it. You gotta love what you're doing. When it comes to playing sports, especially as a kid, there's a lot of sacrifice. It's times where you can't hang out with your friends or some things are going on because you have practice or a sporting event where you're traveling city to city for AAU tournaments or 707. You gotta love it. You gotta love it because if you don't love it, you're not putting the time in and you won't, the focus to get better. So if you don't love it, you're just out there wasting your time. You gotta love what you're doing. And I played basketball year round since I was 7 years old. And I mean, I don't play as much now, but I still love it as I did when I was a little kid. That's my advice to most players that's playing nowadays. You gotta love the sport.
And I know you've dealt with some injuries over your career, right? So how do you come back from injury, like as far as rehab and what you do to stay healthy and strong?
I mean, it's all mental. Your body breaks down. It's something you can control, but you really can't. So it's all mental. As long as you have a great mental and got a good team around you, you can fight anything. I had some knee surgeries I went through when I was playing in the league, even overseas. It's a lot of time off rehabbing and getting back strong, but you gotta be mentally tough. And it's also about, when you love something like basketball and you off for a couple months and you're not playing and you watching and you get that itch to get back out there, it kind of, builds your passion more. So I just say, just stay in the gym, take care of your body. Me as a young player, I didn't really look too much into it about eating right and doing stuff like that. Like I ate bad. I'll just be honest. I ate bad. And as I got older, I realized the importance of eating healthier, take care of your body, stretching, making sure you're drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. And that's what I would tell a lot of these young kids.
And I know you love your Axio. I know you drink that now. Malia too.
We started taking the products after playing sports, and I know I can speak for both of us. We wish we would have came across the products while we were playing.
Definitely.
We see a huge difference like in our bodies and
Yeah. Thank you guys. Mila, real quick before we end, let's get to that. What products do your boys take while they play sports? I know Ronnie had an injury in college that you have a really good story about too.
Yeah, so Devin has been taking Nrf2 and omegas and actually the probiotic for probably 3 or 4 years now. Ronnie was faithful on the Nrf2 in college, which I really believed helped with an ankle injury. He had a high ankle sprain. They didn't think that he would be back on the field for 6 weeks. I had him doubling up on the Nrf2 and making sure he stayed in the training room and got that care that he needed with them. He was back on the field in a play within a week. So that
That's
was pretty
incredible.
amazing to us. That's when I went, this is the real deal. I already knew it was, but to see it happen. And I just love that, especially for Devin. It's not even something that I have to stay on him about. Did you take your products? He's just like, he's a faithful, he loves it. He knows what it does for his body. Even Devin with a hamstring injury recovered really quickly. And so I feel better about him, especially with the omegas,
Yep.
In that helmet on the field doing the things that he needs.
Omegas are without a doubt. I would never put my child on the football field without putting omegas in his body.
Huge.
Without a doubt. And both our boys also have been on. If you're wondering what Nrf2 is that she's talking about, be sure to get with whoever shared this with you. It's a herbal supplement that lowers inflammation. It will help with their recovery and their sleep. We have a wide variety of products that can help your athlete be activated. But we're going to wrap the call up. It's getting late, especially on the East Coast. I see a couple people nodding off. So Ron, Mila, Malia, Greg, baby Julian, and Garrett, thank you so much, everybody. This was such an informative call. Really, really special call. I'll be sure to get the recording out to everybody so that you can share it. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thank you, Angie. Bye, Garrett.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye, everyone.